Last July, the Lincoln Park Zoo celebrated the 20th anniversary of its first gorilla birth. Since then, it's been a virtual baby boom.
One of the biggest challenges facing zoos today is to encourage captive breeding. With 31 successes in 20 years, it's apparent that Lincoln Park makes their gorillas feel right at home.
We gave them things that were important biologically. We created areas where they could live in family groups, a space to climb and run and jump and play. They do what they want to do, and we feel they're comfortable.
On rare occasions, a female gorilla will reject her baby, which must then be hand-raised by keepers until ready to return to the group.
We came up with the philosophy that if we could introduce them back into the group, that it would be the most meaningful thing we could do. I mean, we wanted to get them back with their mothers.
Head gorilla keeper Pat Sass has been involved with this process many times. Her latest charge is the year-and-a-half-old Bolero.
I'm the gorilla mom. I mean, I bite her belly, I tickle her, I discipline her if she needs it, just like her mother would do. And so the transition is a little bit easier.
With their ongoing successes in this program, it is clear that Lincoln Park will continue to be the gorilla capital of the world for many years to come.
Coming up, jungle fever hits New York.
The Bronx Zoo is one of the oldest zoos in America and is part of the New York Zoological Society. Their strong commitment to conservation goes back to the turn of the century.
It all began in 1905 when William T. Hornaday, the first director of the NYZS, spearheaded the Save the Bison campaign. He brought the few remaining bison out of the wild and bred them in captivity, and as the number of bison increased, they were returned to America's Wild West. Since that time, through the efforts of Wildlife Conservation International, the NYZS expanded their role to become a world leader in conservation. Dr. William Conway explains.
Altogether, about 76 national parks around the world owe their existence to the efforts of the Zoological Society, and there are about 122 projects in 43 nations around the world that are being operated by the Zoological Society's scientists, all emanating from the programs here at the zoo.
Over the years, it's this relationship that has propelled the zoo to become an innovator in its field. A prime example of this is the African Plains exhibit. When it debuted in 1941, its open landscape with no bars to separate man and beast revolutionized zoo exhibits. In the 1980s, this tradition of innovation continued with the opening of Jungle World, a 1-acre indoor exhibit celebrating the beauty and fragility of the world's tropical rainforest.
Tropical rainforest covers only about 6% of the Earth, but it contains more than 50% of all the species of plants and animals that there are. We wanted to make something that gave visitors a real feeling of the jungle.
To give visitors that feeling, Jungle World was created by artisans who paid strict attention to detail. Trees that would take 500 years to grow were recreated to the minutest detail. The painted background, blending real and man-made foliage, is the longest hand-painted mural in the world. But the major success here is the mixture of animals that brings the jungle experience just a little closer to the city of New York. Now, almost 50 years after the historic opening of the African Plains, the Bronx Zoo celebrates the opening of another great exhibit.
The Baboon Reserve is very special in that it reflects the wildlife of the high Ethiopian plateau. There's nothing like it elsewhere in Africa.
This 2-acre free-range exhibit is one of the largest primate exhibits in the world. 2 troops of gelada baboons roam alongside Nubian ibex, much as they would in their own homeland.
The gelada baboon has lived next to man and to man's ancestors for more than 3 million years, evolving as a baboon, as we have evolved as human beings.
To highlight this dimension of time, the exhibit contains some unusual elements. fossil replicas of early man and the giant jalapa, as well as these disturbing remains.
This is a 35-year-old bull elephant. It was killed a few months ago in Kenya. See where the face was hacked off right here with a chainsaw to get the tusk. Seeing live elephants in the zoo is the accustomed thing. Showing dead elephants in the zoo is a part of the new kind of educational effort we've got to make people care.
Hopefully, it will only be a short while until people learn from their mistakes. But until that time, the Bronx Zoo and the New York Zoological Society's commitment to conservation will still be going strong.
This is the San Diego Zoo. Its diverse animal population is spread out among a 100-acre tropical garden. And whether you see this vast collection of rare and exotic species on foot, by bus, or in the Skyfari, you'll soon find out why this zoo has become a world-famous attraction. This past spring, the zoo had its biggest baby boom ever in its 75-year history. Over 450 rare mammals, birds, and reptiles were born. A trip to the San Diego Zoo is not complete without a visit to our koala barn. We have one of the largest and most prolific groups of koalas outside of Australia. Most people think of them as cuddly and cute and think of them as bears. Actually, they're not a bear at all. Let's go take a closer look. You know, Valerie, so many people believe these are actually bears. You want to tell us a little bit more about their structure?
Yeah, actually, they're not bears at all. They are in a group of animals called marsupials, which basically is categorized by whether or not the animal has a pouch, or the females have a pouch that their babies grow up in. So the koala is a pouched mammal, or marsupial, and is therefore related to the kangaroo or the possum.
You know, they have such a cuddly look. People think, oh, I would love to hug one, but they do have some sharp claws.
Very sharp claws. They're built for climbing, but they can also do some severe damage if you happen to be holding one, and they can bite as well.
Tell us about the success of the breeding program here in San Diego.
We have had koalas in the San Diego collection since the late 1950s, but very few animals, and our reproductive success was not as good as it has been since 1976, when we really intensified management procedures on the animals. We've had over 40 koala births since 1976.
We have a really special member of our koala group here. Can you tell us a little bit about our albino koala?
It's a very rare condition. Apparently, it occurs in humans in only 1 in 20,000 human births. So obviously, it was quite a surprise to us. At the time when Dulara was born, was another albino koala in captivity in Australia. She has since died. So as far as I know, he represents the only living albino koala in the world at this time.
Here's an amazing story of a fascinating relationship between man and beast. The drill baboon is another one of the world's rarest animals. It is believed that there are few left in the wild, and within 10 years, these could be gone. With only 18 drills in captivity, animal trainer Gary Priest found he faced the biggest challenge of his career when he met a diabetic baboon named Lou.
We had to give him an insulin injection on a daily basis. And of course, he's a wild animal with 3-inch long teeth. The only way that we could do that is to use a veterinary squeeze cage, a device designed to immobilize him, to hold him still while the insulin would be injected. Of course, that wasn't a viable long-term solution. That was very stressful to the animal, very traumatic. Our zoo curator, Carmi Penny, called one day and said, "This is the problem. Do you think it's possible to train this animal to accept an injection voluntarily?" You have to remember that he had been poked and prodded and tested for a number of months, and he wasn't very kindly disposed towards humans at that point. So it truly was a challenge.
It took a team of veterinarians, trainers, and engineers to meet the challenge and come up with a solution to this problem.
And in order to get him to voluntarily offer up a blood sample, this is what we came up with. His behavior is to actually reach in and grab the rod here, and then this area here where the ellipse is cut out, you can see my arm is where we take the blood. And as long as he's doing that, whatever else we do up here is immaterial. This is the behavior that he's being rewarded for. again, would take a syringe and drag the needle over his arm. And now, as you can see, the behavior has changed to where he's gotten to the point where he trusts us enough now to where we can hold his arm. We don't need the tube any longer and do the exact same behavior. And that's just a part of his daily routine.
This training has undoubtedly saved Lou's life, but what's even more important, it's brought hope for a species threatened with extinction.
Coming up, moosing around with Jack.